You're ruining me, damn it!
Now back to more of Wrestling on the Spectrum with Brody the Brain Herman, JC and Patrico on the Lou Information Station. Streaming 24/7 at louinfo.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling on the Spectrum. My name is Tony Patrico, and you spell that Patrico, baby. And joined, as always, by Brody the Brain Herman. Brody, when I hear someone say professional wrestling heel, there's a name that comes to mind, and I'll let you go ahead. Hit him with the intro.
Absolutely. Of course, this guy is originally from Canada, from the Winnipeg area. He came up with that Calgary crew of Chris Jericho and Lance Storm and Jerry Morrow and a lot of those guys. He's worked in places like WWE, ECW, TNA, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now he's the leader of the Don Callis family in AEW. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Callis! Woo!
Don, thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
So, Don, I'm going to dive right into it here. And I know that I mentioned, when I hear professional wrestling heel, and I've seen multiple people refer to you as the most vicious heel out there. I know you are anti-cool guy heel. What does it take to be that vicious heel?
You say that as if there's some sort of a step-by-step book I could educate someone or sell. It really is just about, I'm just myself. That's it. I mean, I don't dial it up. I mean, maybe my clothes are moderately different than they would be if I went out to dinner in New York or something. But I let my true feelings come out. I don't have a lot of patience for stupidity, for people that aren't good at their jobs, and I encounter that in every moment of my life, whether it's at work, going through an airport, checking into a hotel, getting on a private plane and having to deal with people, the pilot. I have zero patience. So rather than trying to hide this part of my personality, I just, allow myself to be me. And people seem not to like it or whatever you want to call it. And that's okay. I mean, they like me, can react however and act however they want to.
Yeah. So, or technical difficulties with the radio show, trying to do an interview. No patience for that either. I can only imagine. We apologize for that. Now, I will tell you this. This is one thing that I absolutely love is when I look at the Don Callis family in its current state, there's always that strength in numbers, and you continue to grow the family. Now, my question is to you now, what happens when the foundation starts to crack, when things get a little overcrowded? Is that where Don Callis steps up and says, it's my job to put this family together and be the glue? Or how do you handle that scenario?
Well, I could ask you the same question. If you got a nice house, you got a 4-bedroom house, and all of a sudden you have 5 kids, what do? You get rid of one of the kids? No, you buy a bigger house. Very simple. And so there's always room for high quality, genetically gifted athletes in the Don Callis family. And I will continue to find ways to make that work. People joke about the salary cap. I don't have a salary cap. I have a talent cap. In other words, people who aren't talented enough don't get looked at. And sometimes opportunities come up and you say, well, I need to add this person because this is going to add a lot to the group. The thing is that I'm looking at this thing 10 years down the line. So when I first took on, say, Kyle Fletcher, it wasn't necessarily ready just based on results to be in the group. But I saw potential, and I look at a 5-year window, a 10-year window. And that's what I did with Kyle. It's what I continue to do with the group. And the group will continue to get bigger because what I have come to understand is that wrestling, like in the labor force, there's strength in numbers and there's strength in unity. And so, as a private business person, I don't like terms like work stoppage or picket lines, PR campaigns any more than the next private business person. But those are things that are options for me, because if you look at some of the shows, you could just as easily call it Don Callis presents Dynamite or Collision, because if I pull my guys off that show and we decide to take a walk, go for a steak, gonna be problems. Now, I'm not saying I would ever do anything like that, because I respect Tony Khan as a private business person. I respect what he's built for all of the wrestlers. But what I am saying is sometimes people like to push people like me into a corner, and that's when things get dangerous.
Well, you mentioned Kyle Fletcher, and Kyle Fletcher has a very big match coming up when he's in St. Louis for Wrestle Dream. Brody, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes,
match.
Kyle Fletcher will be defending the AEW TNT Championship against Mark Briscoe, of course, and he's one of your guys, greatly improved the physique. Kyle Fletcher has shown tremendous strides in his work. What are your thoughts on Fletcher, and how do you think he'll be able to retain the belt against Mark Briscoe?
Well, first, let's touch on Mark Briscoe. I mean, Mark Briscoe is a fantastic wrestler. There's no question. I've liked Mark for a long time, and I could not have less in common with another human being than with Mark Briscoe. But he has a passion for this business that I have a lot of respect for. And he's such a wild man that people lose sight of the fact of what a great wrestler he is. And the problem for Mark Briscoe is that he's going against a generational talent in Kyle Fletcher. And this is the Kyle Fletcher who not only has this talent, not only has the physique, not only has the ability, he now has the confidence of having defended this title. He now has the confidence of having not just me, but an entire army, if you want to call it that, and a family behind him. Mm-hmm. Yep. So Kyle Fletcher is the best wrestler in all elite wrestling right now, in my opinion. And that covers a lot of ground. But I defy anyone to find me someone who has the package that he has, which is not just the wrestling. There's a lot of phenomenal wrestlers in AEW, but he also has this physique. He's 26 years old. He's handsome. He's tall. He's athletic.
Yeah.
Find me someone else that ticks all those boxes. This guy's the best in the world right now. And there's, without a doubt, Mark Briscoe is going to lay it all on the line, and we're very prepared for that. And I can't wait to see what Kyle does to this toothless chicken plucker, because Mark Briscoe is missing one very simple thing that Kyle has, and it's called class. Now, it's not meant to be trite. When you're a champion, when I think about champions, I think of Nick Bockwinkel, people of his ilk, Lou Thez, and I say these guys had class. They walked in the ring. There was an aura. They were in your head before you locked up, and that's exactly what I see with Kyle, and I think that's going to be a problem for Mark Briscoe at Wrestle Dream, frankly.
Absolutely. You have two other members of your Don Callis family, Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. You've referred to it as healthy competition, the senpai and the kohai. However, I think people have noticed some tension and dissension between Okada and Takeshita. How do you believe that they will be able to unite together and defeat Brodito for the AEW Tag Team Championship?
Because they're fighting for something that's a bigger cause than themselves. And this is what we talk about when I talk about the collective nature of the family, from each according to their ability, to each according to my needs. And so what I need in this case is for them to win the AEW World Tag Team titles. Whatever professional curiosities, whatever rivalries that they may have to take a second place. That's part of being in this family, is that you don't get to decide what's only best for you. It's what's best for the group. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for other people in the group. People have had to do that for Kyle on the way. Kyle recognized that. He did it for them. So you see, one hand washes the other. And I think that Takeshita and Okada have been brought up in a culture that is very respectful, that understands hierarchies, that understands there's a boss that has an expectation. And I have an expectation for this match. And I think that Brodito has never been in the ring with two studs like Okada and Takeshita. I mean, this is a dream team. Talking about Okada and Takeshita here. There's not anything else like this out there. So competition's a good thing, but I fully expect that Brodito is going to get handled, and I'm going to say within 15 minutes. I'll give you the over-under at 15.
All right. Take that to the books there. Don, so you've done pretty much everything when it comes to the world of professional wrestling, in, out of the ring, behind the commentary desk. What is most enjoyable for you? What is Don like doing the most?
I like creating history. I mean, I did it with the Omega Tokyo Dome match in 2018. I did it when I came here and Kenny and I won the world title together. And I've done it over and over again. What I'm really liking is that I feel like what I imagine a proud parent would feel like with Kyle Fletcher. Because what I learned when I had Kenny was that as close as I was to Kenny and as talented as Kenny was, that, children will ultimately become a colossal disappointment to you in some way or another. And as a parent, you're stuck. Nothing you can do, really, unless you're probably not going to disown them. But then I thought, well, why can't I do that? And so there's a stupid saying you can't pick your family. Well, I disagree with that. I have handpicked this family. And Kyle Fletcher has given me faith in the family unit. He's given me faith in how you raise children, because Kyle Fletcher is everything I wanted Kenny Omega to be, especially mentally. And Kenny was too weak to be able to take it to the next level, as talented as Kenny was and probably still is, right? Mentally, he doesn't have it. Kyle has it. Kyle's a killer. Kyle is a freak athlete. And so I take great pleasure watching Kyle Fletcher do what he does. And it's interesting, I'll say something to Kyle Fletcher on a flight. Oh, I thought I saw this the other day. I don't tell him to do it. I don't suggest anything. Week later, 2 weeks later, month later, he's having a match, and I'll see what I told him crop up in that match. So this guy is a savant for wrestling, and he's got an army behind him.
Speaking of that army, I mean, we saw 2 new members of that army.
Yes, Andrade and El Colon, I believe, are the 2 newest members of the Don Callis family. Talk about those guys and talk about why you recruited them into the Don Callis family.
I think it's limiting thinking to begin to think that all this family and myself are about is professional wrestling. We are, whether, Tony Khan and I probably disagree on a lot of things, but one thing I think Tony would probably agree on is that the Don Callis family has really taken over all elite wrestling. So I could hunker down and I could try to entrench us in that position, try to cling to that power, or I can grow. And so we have tried to grow. We've done it with some of the new members. There is going to be some things coming out of Los Angeles, out of Hollywood, for lack of a better term, in the next 3 to 4 months that are going to involve the Don Callis family, which is going to turn the wrestling world on its ear, frankly. And I also look geographically as someone who has an MBA in international business and ran a worldwide trade and investment agency in a prior life. I understand the benefits of globalization, not just the bad parts of it. And I say, why wouldn't I want to have a strong presence? So now Mexico is the hotbed, or one of the hotbeds of professional wrestling. CMLL, the oldest wrestling promotion in the world. Well, why does the C in CMLL, why can't that stand for Callis Mundial de Lucha Libre? Because we have got a foothold right now in Mexico with El Clone, with Andrade, and of course with Hechicero, who has been setting the world on fire since he's been with me.
Absolutely.
So we are, just like we've expanded into the Japanese market with Takeshita and Okada, representing in some ways, some people would say in Japan, the present and the future of Japanese wrestling. We've now done it as well with Mexico. So what I do, to answer your question, is I grow exponentially. I grow and into other sectors other than just professional wrestling. And that's where you get power, because with diversity, when you diversify a portfolio, you insulate yourself from risks. So if Tony Khan decides he wants to take a run at the Don Callis family, well, I have the wherewithal outside of AEW into these entertainment sectors, into these other geographic markets to fight that off. So we're going to continue to grow. People keep saying, oh, there's too many guys. Too many? It's only too many if they're not any good. And I don't have that problem.
Yeah, and as long as you have soldiers that are willing to follow your lead, I think that the Don Callis family is going to cause havoc for a long time, and I'm excited to see it. Don, one more question before we let you go. Looking at the state of professional wrestling as a whole, you've been around for different eras. What are your thoughts on the current state of professional wrestling, and where do things go from here?
Well, I can really only comment on All Elite Wrestling. I've actually never watched wrestling shows in my career. I don't watch it. I don't care what other people are doing because what I'm doing is what I want to be focused on. So all I can tell you is that we are on the cusp of a historic time in the professional wrestling industry, specifically here at All Elite Wrestling, because there has never been a person outside of Tony Khan who's had the kind of power that I'm wielding right now in this company. And I'm not sure how people I think it's a great opportunity, frankly, for Tony to bring me into the tent and to say, Don, why don't you head up this area for me? Why don't you and the Don Callis family begin to develop these properties for me? That's one way to do it. Wouldn't you rather have someone like me inside the tent urinating out rather than outside the tent urinating in? Because once you cross a line with me, it's done. I'm going to bring the full weight and force of this family, numerically, monetarily, and otherwise, and I'm going to bring you down. So we're going to grow, and we're going to grow in the amount of influence and power that we have in All Elite Wrestling. And I'm fascinated to see, because Tony Khan is a genius, got genius level IQ, successful businessman. I know Tony's going to want to do the right thing for his business. And the right thing for his business is to acquiesce to what this juggernaut called the Don Callis family needs.
Well, Don, I'm telling you right now, when Wrestle Dream comes to St. Louis next weekend, and we are here at the Chaffetz Arena, if we cross paths here at Wrestling on the Spectrum,
don't make eye contact, please.
We will not. But we honor and respect the Don Callis family.
Yes,
we honor and respect and appreciate everything you're doing currently with All Elite Wrestling. So, Don, thank you for giving us a moment of your time this afternoon. And again, we wish you all the luck when you and your family are here at AEW Wrestle Dream at Chaffetz Arena on the 18th.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it, Don.
It's Wrestling on the Spectrum, featuring Brody the Brain Herman, powered by the law firm of Brown and Crouppen, uncovering the hidden history, pro wrestling patterns, and the stories behind the stories for unapologetic wrestling fanatics. He doesn't just watch wrestling, he decodes it.